Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Darling Fashion. My name is Oderinde Kabirat. If you are new here, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, comment and share. So today I'm going to be teaching you how to cut and sew this beautiful dress right beside me. And without further ado, let's dive right into our video. Make sure your paper is on fold. So you're going to come down by 1 inches, then draw a straight line. The next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be marking 3 inches, which is your standard neckline, and 7.5 inches, which is my shoulder measurement. 15 divided by 2, 7.5. So from that 7.5, I'm going to come down by 1 inches, then take my ruler to connect it like so. So after connecting the lines, I'm going to go ahead to determine my armhole. Your armhole is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5. So in my case, it is 7.5. 34 divided by 6 plus 1.5. So I marked 7.5. And I went ahead to connect my lines. So the next thing I did was I went ahead to mark the length of my top. So I marked 15 inches. Then I drew a straight line. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be connecting my armhole to my bust line. Then I'll take my bust measurement, which is 8.5. Then I'll mark my waist measurement, which is 26 divided by 4, gave me 6.5. Then I'm going to go ahead to connect my lines like so. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to mark 1 inches allowance on the bust line and on the waistline. Then I'm going to go ahead to connect it like so. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be determining the midpoint of the armhole. In my case, it's 7.5 and the midpoint is 3.75. So I marked 3.75, then went 3/4 inches. Then I went ahead to use my ruler to connect it like so. Then I used my curve to join it to the bust line. So after that, I'm also going to do my other curve for the back. So that's it. So after this, I'm just going to go ahead to determine the neck width I want. So I'm using 5 inches. So then I used I went down by 1.5 inches. Then I used my curve to curve it like so. So after doing that, I went ahead to add half inches allowance all through from the neckline to the shoulder to the armhole. Then I connected it like so. I'm also going ahead to add half inches allowance on the hemming line to sew it up. So after marking 1 inches, I'm going to go ahead to connect my lines. So now I can go ahead to cut out my pattern. Make sure you're following the back because this is the back piece. You're just going to be modifying this to draft the front piece. Now I'm just going to go ahead to place my back pattern on a fresh pattern paper. You don't need to fold it. So I'm just going to follow the lines. I'm following the back pattern line piece. Now I went in by 1 inches for the front because the front is always deeper. Then I went ahead to use my curve to connect it to the armhole. The next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting that part out later, but before that I extended my line by 15 inches on my waistline. Then I connected the lines together like so. I just went ahead to connect my bust line. Then I placed my curve from that point of my neckline. Then I went ahead to mark 2 inches up from the 15 inches I marked earlier. Then I took my curve to connect it together like so. So after connecting it together, I just use my hand to do a face sketch to connect the lines together, just to give me a shape I want. It all depends on you. So then I took half inches all through. So then I connected my half inches. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. Make sure you are cutting on the 1/2 inches line. So this is what the front piece looks like. This is our front and back piece. So we are going to go ahead to cut it out on the fabric. So I just went ahead to my pattern paper to my fabric. So after pinning it down, I went ahead to cut it out on my fabric. So after cutting it out, I also did for my lining. So this is my lining and my main fabric. I'm going to go ahead to cut out the front piece. Make sure your fabric is on fold. We need 4 pieces of this because we are going to be using the same fabrics for the lining also. So cut out 4 pieces. So I have 4 pieces of this. As you can see, this is my front piece. This is the first 2. I'm going to sew it up. Also that one, I'm going ahead to take it to my machine to sew it. So this is the lining and the main fabric. I'm going to sew up the neckline and the hemming line. This is what your back piece should look like after sewing. So I sewed up the neck and the lower part. Then I have just the 2 sides open and the shoulder. Also, I went ahead to sew up the front piece. Also, I sewed up the side and this side. Just this place is left open. Also, for the other side, I did the same. I sewed up this part and the lower part. So now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go ahead to place my front piece on my back piece. Then I'll sew up the shoulder and the side. Sew up the shoulder and the sides. Again, you sew up the sides and the shoulder. So I'm going ahead to draft my sleeves. Make sure your paper is on fold. So I went down by 1 inches. Then I drew a straight line. Then I went ahead to measure my cap's height. My cap's height is 3.5 inches. I marked 3.5 inches. Then I connected my lines like so. So the next thing I'll be doing is I'm going to be determining how long I want my sleeves to be. So I'm using 24 inches. Then I'm just going to go ahead to mark it out like so. So after doing that, I'm going ahead to mark my armhole measurement, which is 7.5 on my cap's height line. Then I had added 1/2 inches for ease, then 1 inch sewing allowance. So I went ahead to connect it like so. I connected it from the cap's height to the line I drew. So the next thing I did was I measured same 9.5 inches on my sleeve hem. Then I went ahead to connect it like so. So the next thing I'll be determining the midpoint of this, which is 5 inches, because I have a total of 10 inches. So from the 5 inches line, I went up by 1/2 inches. Then I went ahead to use my ruler to connect it like so. Then I went ahead to use my curve to connect it like so. So this is for the back. So for the front, it is usually deeper. So I'm just going to place my ruler, my curve like so, then connect it like so, then turn it the other way around, then connect it like so. So after doing this, I'm just going to go ahead to cut it out. I'm just indicating the front and back. So after cutting this out, you are going to go ahead to open it up, then cut out the front. So now that I'm done cutting out our sleeve, I'm going to go ahead to cut it out on the fabric. So now I'm done cutting out the sleeve. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking the sleeves to the machine to sew the hemming. That's where the elastic will pass through. So I'm just hemming the lower parts of the sleeves, so I'll be able to pass my elastic through like so. So now that I'm done passing the elastic, I'm just going to go ahead to sew it down with my machine. After sewing down, I'm going to go ahead to sew up my sleeve by 1 inches. So now that I'm done sewing my sleeve, I'm going to go ahead to fix it to my bodice. So you're going to take your sleeves, make sure the notched part is facing, just notch the edge of the sleeve and make sure the notched part is directly on that shoulder line. Also make sure this part aligns, then you pin it down. So after that, then go ahead to pin it all through. So after pinning all through, I'm going to take it to my machine to sew. So I went ahead to sew up the sleeves by 1/2 inches. It all depends on the inches you left. For me, I used 1/2 inches allowance, so I'm sewing it up by 1/2 inches. So this is what it looks like after attaching my sleeves. So as you can see, it's looking all good, all nice. So I'm just going to take it to my mannequin for you to have a better look at what it looks like. So this is what it looks like on my mannequin. So if you enjoyed watching this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, comment and share. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.